Minds Beneath Us is a story-driven point-and-click indie game that is set in the not-so-distant dystopian future where mega corporations rule. Your typical cyberpunk stuff. The gameplay calls to mind games from Quantum Dream like Detroit Become Human or Heavy Rain. But right now, we'll spoil the review a little by saying this is probably one of the best story-heavy indie games of 2024. But what we won't spoil in this review, however, is the story, because, it's something you want to experience yourself. What makes Minds Beneath Us so special? It's not a game that you play to have fun and feel good about yourself at the end of the day. It's a game that will have you questioning your place in the world and your attitude towards it. So let's dive right into this review. Our story follows Jason Dye. He's an ordinary ex-military man, at least on the outside. Inside of him, there are two wolves, Jason Dye and you, an MBU. MBUs are basically consciousnesses that can be transferred into human bodies and can control them for various purposes such as espionage, interrogation, or creating a fully obedient soldier to do one's bidding. You were transferred into the body of Jason Dye by a mysterious shadowy figure. For what purpose? Who knows? Nevertheless, you are now in Jason's body as he is preparing for an interview at one of the biggest companies in Wanpei, Vision. They're responsible for keeping the various AI systems that maintain the country's infrastructures afloat. The company does so through flop farms that harvest brain power from healthy individuals in order to supply more processing power to all of these AI systems. But behind every seemingly perfect system, there's a price to pay. Jason Dye only wants to live a peaceful life with his girlfriend, Frances Cheng. But they're about to be dragged into something bigger, something that will overturn all they know about the world, about themselves, and the systems in place that make their lives comfortable. As we said at the start, the story is really what puts Minds Beneath Us a tier above all the rest. The world building is meticulous and there are a lot of tiny details sprinkled into the game that really help with the subtle storytelling. You can get a lot of information about Wanpei and its people by looking around or listening in on the chatter on the streets and in the hallways. The characters are all endearing and likable to some degree, and while liking a character is a matter of preference, the game does a really good job of characterizing, so even if you don't like someone, you still understand why they are the way they are. It's this feeling of intimacy with the characters that really puts humanity in the inhuman situations that the characters find themselves in. It actually makes the inhuman situation feel worse because it makes you think that these people, who are just trying to live their lives the best they can, don't deserve to be put in these situations. I spent a good portion of the story just whispering under my breath, "Please don't die, please don't die, please don't die," whenever they would expound on their backstory. But what Minds Beneath Us does best is the exploration of its themes. One of its biggest underlying themes is reconciling your values with the messiness of reality. As any jaded adult knows, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and the good guys don't always win. Practical decisions aren't always the easiest. The game's choice mechanics, which we'll talk about more in depth later, highlight this and really let you feel the weight of your decisions. It does a spectacular job of conveying its message and worldview without sounding overly pessimistic, but also not overly hopeful. It tells a very real story about people trying to navigate an unfair, unjust, and filthy world, while struggling to keep their moral compass, sanity, and themselves alive. If you're coming into this game expecting clear-cut, neat, and satisfying happy endings, this isn't it. And while some endings may be happier than others, it's complicated. But that's the beauty of it. Minds Beneath Us aims to tell us that the world isn't clear-cut. The world is full of imperfections, compromises, and blurry lines. Unlike movies, the world moves on and doesn't end at the end. There are many consequences to your actions and you'll always be dealing with the aftermath for the rest of your life. Or maybe they're just, making room for a sequel in the future, I don't know. As we said in the beginning of the video, the gameplay is like a Quantic Dream game. The gameplay can be summarized into 3 simple parts: exploration, choice making, and QTEs. During exploration, you can go look around your environment, make observations, and take note of certain details. It's here where you find out the little storytelling details we mentioned earlier, like notes on the ground, pictures on people's desks, and someone stealing food from the break room. Some of these things are just nice to know, but some of them can open up dialogue choices later on. So keep your eyes peeled as this game sometimes rewards curiosity. Speaking of dialogue choices, the choices you make are fairly rewarding. Okay, maybe not rewarding conventionally as your choices could lead to someone dying. By rewarding, we mean that there's an actual perceivable difference in the flow of the dialogue and your relationship with people as a byproduct of your choices. It's not like how Persona, let's say, deals with its main story choices, where you have options that are like, yeah, versus, and they both lead to the same place. And it's because of this that it put me in this mindset of taking every choice seriously. Don't believe me? Here's a clip of me mulling over a choice, but sped up. Very much in theme, there are no wrong decisions in Minds Beneath Us. There's no game over screen, but there are consequences to your actions, so be careful. Oh look, I finally decided. Last and the most simple is the QTE scenes. There are action scenes that require you to be quick on your feet, or fingers in this case, and react to certain button prompts. Again, kinda like Quantic Dream games. Sadly, no press X to Sean though. No! There's not much to say for this segment other than it serves its purpose. Minds Beneath Us might not have the most realistic visuals and oh my, look at the pores on this dude graphics, but it does its best with what it has. Despite not having faces, the characters are all very distinct and recognizable. The game describes itself as taking place in an Asian city, but it's very clearly Taiwan. Isn't that right, Wanpei 101? Having been to Taiwan before, I can say that the environment does feel familiar, despite now being the setting for a dystopian game. The bleak grey walls, painful neon lights, and the cameras that follow your movement are very effective in giving the impression that you're always being watched. This is especially true considering its harrowing prologue that forces you to doubt everything you see. While we couldn't call the soundtrack perfect, it does its job very well. Big decisions are often accompanied by heavy tunes. Combat comes with fast-paced, heart-pounding beats, and the more jovial scenes are accentuated by playful music. The sound effects are also very good, which is pretty shocking considering that this isn't much of an action game to begin with. Really, the only thing this game is missing is voice acting, as it has a lot of emotionally charged dialogue. Minds Beneath Us is probably my favorite story of the year. It's thought-provoking and really asks you to think about what your role is in this imperfect and unfair world. What are you willing to sacrifice to keep going? And what are you willing to keep? Again, this isn't the game that you play to have fun and escape from reality. It's a game that sometimes pulls you away from the game to look back at reality and say, damn, this game's pretty real. The game's a pretty good bang for buck because you can also go back and check out all the choices and routes that you haven't tried yet. You can finish the whole game in around 12-ish hours, or more if you're like me and have a hard time choosing, with a tendency to look at every nook and cranny. The game was also updated several times during our pre-release playthrough of it, showing that the devs are keeping close tabs on bugs and errors and that they care about providing the best experience possible. With that, we're giving Minds Beneath Us a solid 90. That's our take on Minds Beneath Us. Are you thinking of getting the game too? What decision had you staring at the screen for a few minutes? Tell us in the comments below. Please tag spoilers though. Like and subscribe if you want to see more video game related content. This has been Game8, signing off.